Welcome, welcome, welcome to this edition of Sagionic 1027. We are so glad that you could join us today. And with us, I have one of my fellow moms that I
I
know who
was,
thinks just like an entrepreneur, just like me. And so before I introduce our guest today, I would like to share with you a little bit about Sagionic 1027, how we came to be, and why. Okay. 2018, I was walking down the hall in my house, and all of a sudden I heard Sagionic, and I was like, "What? What is that? How am I supposed to even look it up if I don't even know how to spell it?" And then I heard Sagionic, and so I wound up looking it up. Don't ask me how I got there, but it was some Greek backdoor ancient dictionary, and in the dictionary it said Sagionic. It means movement by movement in human time. In October, this was fully launched when I was called to a boardroom meeting by the Lord God Almighty. And he downloaded Sagionic 1027, and he had me hone in and look at that the word Sagion all by itself means carriers of wisdom. So at Sagionic 1027, our desire is how do we take people who have functioned with what I classify as a business professional mindset? It doesn't mean you had to own a business, but your brain thinks strategically with a spirit of excellency. And so today, I am honored for our guest to be able to meet Nicole Higgins, and everything that she has to offer. She is quite the woman, and I promise you, you will be beyond encouraged. So Nicole, I want to thank you for being with us today,
think,
and just giving our viewers an opportunity to hear what's heavy on your heart. Although I gave you questions, nobody knows until they get on set. I never go off the questions.
okay.
And so what was placed on your heart, and why was it that you were chosen and called to be part of this program today?
Well, when you initially asked me to come on, I thought you had said what it looks like to be successful in motherhood.
That's right.
And to me, motherhood looks like a lot of things. I am a mom of three children, 10, 8, and 6, who are very active in sports. And I homeschool them. And so there's an echo on my side. I just want to make sure it's not on yours too.
It's not.
Okay.
Turn your volume down a little.
Okay. Um, so with that being said, I never expected myself to be a teacher, um, let alone a teacher of my own children. And so what success looks like to me for that is ultimate submission to God and what his plan is for me, and um, protection over my children. For me, that looks like I wrote a few things down,
Yes, do share.
because not only am I a mom, but I'm, like I said, a teacher, but also a coach, because my oldest daughter is a competitive gymnast. And if you've ever been involved in gymnastics, it's quite the expensive sport. Her monthly tuitions for that are roughly the same prices, probably maybe even more than a truck payment. And so when she decided that she wanted to do competitive sports, I decided to find any way I could to bring in that income. And I've always had um, the desire to share anything I could as far as the direct sales companies go. Um, I love the idea of being able to earn free products for things and stuff like that for my home, but um, that was didn't come until later that I started getting back into that. But I had the opportunity to clean the gym, and they were desperate for coaches. And so for the last year or so, I've been coaching preschool gymnastics. And so, but that's, to me, that's what it looks like to be motherhood, is to face obstacles head on that we find and that are coming at us every day, and be able to find solutions to overcome them. And so that was
Now, pause there
my
for a
solution.
second, because this is really good. This is really good. So instead of saying, no, little sweetheart, you may have a desire to do that, but we just don't have the money. Or
Right.
instead of saying we're too broke or we're too this or we're too that, instead, your daughter rose up with a desire and you thought, how can we make this happen?
Right.
I think that's important. I think it's really, really important. Um, so
There's
this is,
so many avenues
yes.
for stay-at-home moms to earn money now. Like, the possibilities are literally endless. You can do call center stuff. You find time to just set aside a couple hours to do call center stuff. You can do the direct sales, which I know direct sales has a big stigma to it, and it is a lot harder now actually than it was when I first started direct sales, simply because Facebook's algorithms have changed, and you're literally working against robots who are working against you. Um, but it is possible. I know I have friends, several friends, who earn significant income with direct sales. But it's not a get rich quick scheme, and you have to really put in the work. So, but it's pretty easy to make just a couple extra $100 a month with most direct sales companies if you find something you're passionate about, and just share it with friends. So, but also, I think that looks of our home is based on finding coupons and finding um, other activities that uh, are good deals. My husband makes great money, but I think we're called to be good stewards of that money. And so for us, we um, we were in a season where we were really comfortable with our income, and we made some changes recently that put us in a place where we have to be more conscious of where our money is coming and going. And so as a mom, that is included in my job.
And would you also say, most importantly, that you are demonstrating and teaching your children a work ethic?
Oh,
And
absolutely.
and so, can you delve into a little bit to that on how many different areas uh, can a parent attribute to your children growing up to have a hard work ethic?
Can you ask that again?
Okay, so share some different ways, right, on how important it is that children are taught a work ethic on the home front, so that that will enable them to be contributing members of society as they grow. So
Oh,
share
absolutely.
some different ways that you've navigated through that.
And when you were talking about that, I was thinking about when I first started homeschooling, I literally had to, because my daughter Kendall did public school for kindergarten and first grade. And so I had to take what I thought school was supposed to look like in a 6, 7, 8 hour time period and say, that's not really what school needs to look like. Of course, they need to learn the basic math and language arts, the fundamental stuff, but history, science, those things that are, art, all of those things, really, they come throughout the day. And most importantly, I find that um, about 80% of what we do is character building. And
Uh-huh.
so my kids know how, two of the three know how to cook more than 3 meals for themselves. Yeah, it might be eggs and grilled cheese and mac and cheese, but that at 8 and 10, they are learning things like my 10-year-old literally could, from start to finish, do her own laundry. And so she understands that in order even just to make the house run, um, she is a part of that and she gets to contribute. And so I think that bleeds over into learning work ethic and stuff. They know that their dad works hard, and um, them being able to see that I am willing to uh, set aside an hour to do something like this, or a online party for Mary and Martha, which is the direct sales company that I'm working for now, for them to be able to see that that's what it takes to run a home and be able to contribute to our community in other ways, such as serving and doing. My kids on Sundays, we serve at a local. Our church has a food pantry that we've started up. We were doing it out of a garage for probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, and now we just recently, within the last year, got a building and have started doing it out of the building, and they'll go and serve with me there. So I think that, going back to the way I was thinking that school should look like, um, my kids get so much more out of those, taking those action steps, like doing their laundry, going with me to the adopt-a block, um, sacrificing, maybe going and playing, for me being able to get on a call or something like that. But they get to play after, so they'll be
Yeah.
fine. But you know what I
And
mean?
yeah, and one thing too that you're saying too is that, okay, mom has to spend her time to play pop in the car and take you somewhere and bring you back, right?
Yeah.
So and you're teaching them that you're a realist too, right? I can say that although I had chores, I didn't, for my kids, I didn't understand the importance of mom actually sleeping. I'm laughing at myself because I probably snapped more than I needed to as a mom because I was sleep deprived and never knew it. Because
Yeah.
I thought a mom had to do everything, right? I thought,
Yeah.
plus it was part of my personality of being just a black and white thinker, and needing things to be just so. But so it's really important. So can you share with us, share with the viewers, because of the life lesson skills that you're teaching your children, share some examples with each one of them, on different things that you've seen them walk out that you knew were a direct result from something that you had taught them pertaining to life skills.
Oh gosh. Um, I mean, all three of my kids are super generous. I can think of one time Levi. Um, so I should start by saying that I think success, this is what I think success looks like with my kids, is that, as far as homeschooling them, and just, if they get nothing else out of living in my home and being under my authority and my teaching, if there's nothing else that they get, I pray that they love the Lord with all their heart, soul, mind, and strength, and that they would love their neighbor as themselves. And if they get nothing else out of that, which I know that they're going to, but if they get nothing else out of it, that to me is success. And so to see Levi one day, we were going through a drive-through and we saw a homeless man standing or sitting in maybe a chair or that he had made or on a stump or something, and he was holding a sign, and my 8-year-old said, "What does he need?" And I said, "It I think that his sign says food um and blanket." And so he said, "Well, can we go home and get the blanket off my bed and give it to him?" And I'm like, "Well, how can I say no to that?" So we literally came home. He got the comforter off of his bed, and they made some peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and threw a couple of bags of chips in a bag and maybe some waters and some things. But then they were able to go and hand those things to him. And it was fully their idea. They wanted to do it. I don't think they would have let me say no. And so that's one example of just them on their own loving people. And so to me, again, that is more success than um, if he becomes a doctor. If he wants to
Right.
become a doctor, I pray that, and I fully support that. But I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
yeah,
You know, that struck a memory in me. I remember, and one of my sons tells it the best, right? I know I have seen their generosity in action, all of my children, right? And my youngest is 26 and my oldest is 35, right? But I remember the day, one of the, within a block away from us, there was a house fire, and it was a big house fire. And so I came home and I said, I told the kids, I need you to all go through your clothes. And so we could give, it was a huge Hispanic family, you know, so there was more than one generation living there. And I remember just telling them, I need you to go through your clothes. But one of my sons, his memory is, and we all call me something different. And his memory is, I'll never forget the day mother came in and says, Joshua, I am not kidding. You go through all of your clothes right now. We have to give clothes to the family that burnt down. And it's hilarious because he's laughing while he says it, right? Because he's so dramatic about it. But I've watched them each, and it's worth it all. It truly is worth it all the time you spend in parenting.
well, and I think it's so important, right? They will 100% do what you do and not what you say to do.
Yeah.
And so whatever we're doing, that has to be um, more important than what we're saying to do for them to do.
That's really good because you've heard the cliche statement, um, "Do what I say, not what I do." What there's some kind of
Yeah,
statement,
yeah,
yeah, "Do what I
right.
say,
And
not what
that's
I do," or something.
right.
But that's not the truth. They will do what you
Yeah,
do, one hundred
100.
percent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can tell.
So share with us in your household, okay, how
Mhm.
just at church on Sunday, our pastor played a clip, and it was a silent clip. And the clip was of what looked like an argument that took place between a parent and a child, right? And the child was demonstrating a nasty attitude towards the mom, and you could tell the mom was just as nasty back to the child because you could see by their facial expressions. So, share with us how you're teaching your children respect and honor, both ways.
Well, I think it starts with the way that my husband and I treat each other, right? I'm not saying that we're perfect and that we never have a disagreement or an argument. We rarely yell or call names. I don't think we ever call names, but that being said, when we do, I think it's so important for me, for the kids to see us, one, how to fight,
Uh-huh.
right? How to have a disagreement and be able to still honor and respect the other person, but also for when we make mistakes, for us to own up to those mistakes and apologize. And to me, that's more important than um, is showing God's grace, right? I heard this is that I think it was a book by Danny Silk, maybe I listened to it on audio, but he said the uh, the object of parenting is not to get sin out of the children. It's to teach them when they sin how to come back to the Father. And so for me, I think that's the greatest example that I can show them is when they mess up, when they um, make a mistake, to be able to come to Jesus and put their sin under the blood and come back to the Father. And so I don't know if that's necessarily honor and respect, but I think just in general, I kind of went off on a tangent on that one.
No, no,
But
no, no, you didn't. No, you covered it,
okay.
and you covered it well. You know, I often have wondered um, if my mom was very strict mom, okay, and my dad was the more laid back one, but I was a very strong-willed child, okay. I didn't get into a lot of like, you know, teenage type trouble aside from not coming home on time, right? But it wasn't like, the drugs or the alcohol or whatever. But I often have wondered if my mom's strictness actually helped me in life to revere, not to fear God in a bad way, but to revere authority or authoritative figures. I've
Yeah.
often wondered that, you know and
Yeah.
and so if you look at, because I've heard it also said that the like a, I think it's called a paradigm shift, right? That sometimes when you're raised a certain way, you swing way over to the other side, right?
Mhm.
So how would you attribute your parenting style, respectfully, to perhaps maybe Justin's world growing up and your world growing up? And I'm not asking for the full details or anything to be shared. Like, how can you touch on some points?
Yeah. Well, I think both of us grew up in pretty volatile scenarios. There was probably a lot of fighting, but not fighting fair and not fighting with honor and respect. Um, and I think probably in both cases, there, I
You
want to
could,
make sure that I'm honoring.
yep. And you could also say, I'm not quite sure how to, oh, okay. So we don't need to go there. So let's do this because we want to,
Yeah, I'm not sure that I could. Yeah.
okay. So then now let's go here.
Okay.
So behind the scenes, discussions or realizations that you had as a woman, or things that Justin's communicated to you on what's important in rearing your children, which is the next generation. Is it something you guys talked about, or was it just subconsciously in you? Because I mean, I could raise my hands. I'm the first in my family generation to come to know King Jesus, right? So it was like coming out of a whirlwind of special specialties.
Yeah. Well, Justin was raised in the church, even though he had, stuff going on at home. So I think that was always in him. And I knew you know, that had been, that would have been a desire for him to have me stay home.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not really something I had ever thought about. I came to Jesus pretty late in the game as far as like reference to my age right now. I mean, I'm have really only been saved for like 14 years. So I to me, I never really had thought about it. And specifically about, like I said, about homeschooling, I
Mm-hmm.
was honestly ready 4 years ago to go on and start a doula program and start the next phase of my life when my youngest was ready to go to preschool. And so when God said homeschool, and this was before COVID happened, I it was really God and obedience to him. But I don't think that I think he would have been fine if I would have gotten a job and maybe we ended up putting our kids in private school or something like that. But um, I don't, that it was important for me to be home for sure
Mm-hmm.
to
So
both of them.
tell us how you have been able to walk through parenting, right? And been able to walk through homeschooling while also having your own identity as Nicole the woman or
You know,
Nicole.
the first few years that was really hard. Excuse me. It actually landed me in a pretty bad state of depression. And I know a lot of moms go through that when they have young children at home
Uh-huh.
at that point. Because before I had Kendall, my oldest, I was bartending and working in a restaurant, and I was a very social person. And so I went from that to staying at home, and I completely lost my identity. And mind you, I didn't have really my identity rooted in Christ. I was a very new Christian who got married right away, ended up with a baby right away, and then went from that very social life to being a stay at home mom with a baby who doesn't talk to you. And to me, that was, and my husband at that time, Justin, was working, I mean, probably 60-hour weeks. And he's an avid hunter, and he didn't really understand at that time that I needed him home. And I probably didn't articulate it very well, other than lashing out after the fact. And so it was a very lonely season of my life. And then when I had my second Levi, I landed myself with depression, and I didn't have an identity. And so what it took then was actually when I joined the direct sales company that I was with 8 years ago. And that really got me talking to people, going to moms at the park. And then I encountered Jesus along that process really powerfully and got radically delivered from that depression. But I think at that point, in finding my and being fully rooted in my identity in Christ, only then was I able to fully walk out anything that I'm walking out right now.
Uh-huh.
So,
Uh, and
yeah.
if you think of it, uh, uh, with women, sorry, just women have been created with wombs. Okay? So we were created to mother. Okay, we were created to mother. Women were created to mother, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we think of, I guess I would classify it as deterrence in society, that would make a woman not think that it's valuable to be able to um, have the beauty woven within you, in your being, to be able to create for a life, a human being to be created inside of you. It almost seems like, I mean, and I could say through my own personal experience in motherhood, or listening to other mothers, that there's almost a deterrent, that
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh gosh, I'll raise my hand. When I heard of homeschooling moms before, it's like, are you kidding me? Are you nuts?
Oh, I
I,
can't even tell you the amount of times I hear I could never do that. And I'm like, cool, I could never do that either if I didn't have God to rely on.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
in and of myself, I was thinking, well, that was one of the questions you asked, right? Was the
yes, yes.
deterrence. And I immediately was like, I am my biggest enemy. Like my husband rooting me on. But between myself and then, like you said, society, I mean, it really has come to that where, I think women are fighting to have self-worth outside of motherhood. And I think part of that is like just that desire within our humanity to have that approval. But I think is if that only comes when we're not finding that approval from God, right? As long as I'm in a place where I'm being validated by the Father, I'm not going to be seeking that approval out from other people. But if you know, yesterday's bread isn't good today. And so if I slip back into this forgetting or, um, forgetting that I am approved by the only one that I need approval from, then it's easy to look at society and say, I need to be doing more.
Uh-huh.
And I'm totally guilty of that at times. Um, I love going out and doing Adopt a Block. I love doing Mary and Martha. I'm even contemplating starting a YouTube channel and cleaning my house, because I'm literally going, well, sure, if I'm going to be cleaning my house, I might as well get paid to do it, right? Like, but I think that that's where it's like, oh, that's a physical validation of the work that I'm doing. And so do I need that approval? I have to make sure, even in as I'm contemplating to do these things, everything that I'm doing, I'm contemplating, asking myself, what is the heart behind why I'm doing it? Am I doing it because it's adding value to me, or I think it's adding value to me? Or am I doing it because I just want something that I can call mine,
Yeah,
outside of home?
yeah. That's really good.
Or am I doing it because I feel like God's telling me to do it,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And so I think that that's looking over what things we're adding to find value is important, because if we're adding stuff just to find value, then it's probably not healthy.
That's really good. I wanted to point out, one of the people I interviewed is Howard Partridge. And this book is called The Monday Morning Christian. And he is, I'm not paid for any of this advertisement, just for our viewers. But in here, one thing that's I thought was like an aha moment in reading this is Howard shares that anytime a human is in the moment of irritability or frustration, it is because there is an inner unmet emotion that was intended to be met by the Lord. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
whoa, that is so good. So, what you shared, what you just shared, was in direct relation to that. Okay? So, now let's tap onto what you said, what I shared, Howard shared, and how do you navigate through the fall apart moments of homeschooling with the kids? When there's fall apart moments, share some of your parenting tips on how you deal with those fall apart moments.
Usually it includes long showers, and worship and crying. And that's just real.
Yeah.
I mean, I, I'm like, okay, we all need to take a break and I need to go have a moment with Jesus. But I think that's real for them too, right? I'm like, okay, you're having this moment. And again, it goes back to I can't make you stop sinning. I can't make you stop being angry. I can look to the root and I can try to find the root of it with you. And then we can learn how to take it to the Father and pray. But I think recognizing that those moments are never going to go away. And that's what parenting is teaching them to navigate their emotions and their shortcomings and whatnot. So, yeah.
So I want to say I got to figure out this. So to teach means to train means to disciple means to discipline. To
Yeah.
teach means to train is to disciple is to discipline. So basically, and if I go back to what I shared about my mom, with the boundaries that my mom put up, um, years ago, there was a moment where my youngest daughter, wasn't staying in the parameters that I set for her when I was at the dry cleaners, right? She was wandering off a little too much, right? And the door
Mm-hmm.
was open. It was summertime. And so I remember I had to tell her, okay, well, we got to drop the dry cleaning and not do that now. And I've got to go take care of this child now. And I remember going eye level because it was important to speak to the child at eye level, not to yell at the child or stand over the child, but to speak to the child at eye level. And so I told her I was going to have to spank her butt and then put her in the car seat. Well, I spanked her, told her what I was doing, spanked her butt, swatted her butt, whatever you want to call it, gave her a hug. Okay, give me a hug. I want you to know how much I love you. Put her in the car seat. After she was in the car seat, this woman came up to me and she said, "It is so good to see a parent properly disciplining their child." She said, "My son is the CEO of AT&T, and I knew that if I put up a boundary here and a boundary here and a boundary here and a boundary here, he would bounce off the boundaries and excel up."
That's good.
So
Yeah.
can
I
you
think,
share just about boundaries and the importance of it?
well, I think a child without boundaries, I want to credit who I think said this. I think Karen Jensen Salisbury. Have you ever heard of her? No. Karen Jensen Salisbury. She has some great books out there. I'm actually reading her devotional right now. I can't remember off the top of my head what it's called.
She
I was
would
trying to.
she would be great to interview.
She would be great. But she said, um, kids without boundaries is like a child. If you can picture it, a child going out onto a porch with no railings. That causes anxiety. That causes fear. That causes um, the possibility of death. And so discipline is like setting up railings for a child that's going out on a deck, and it brings security. They know that they can run up to the edge and they're not going to fall off. they're not going to try to climb. Well, they might try to climb over it, but hopefully not. But it gives that security knowing that they aren't going to fall off. And so I think if you can picture a child walking through life like that, I would rather my kids have security than to be living in fear of the possibility of death or anxiety. So,
And even sleep. I know that when our children got to a certain age, we realized you had to take the cell phones away at a certain time in the evening. Like they literally had to bring him in our room, and they went inside the dad's side of the in his nightstand. They had to go in there because that enabled them to shut down and sleep.
yeah.
They had to sleep so they could function, you
Yeah.
know. And so share with us a little bit about, you had mentioned the Mary Martha thing. Take us down that trail of just what is it about? Tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
So, Mary and Martha is a direct sales company. They are with Dayspring. And I had done, like I said, I've done several. Well, I really only did one other direct sales where it was like all in and really going after it. And I did pretty well with it. I earned a trip, an incentive trip, and made a couple $100s a month, probably like $500 a month for probably about 2 years. That company went under, um, and I've tried other companies. I love helping friends with the companies that they're doing, but after that company went under, I just had no real desire to really go after direct sales. So back then, like I said, I was coming out of depression. That's when I got into that other company and fell in love with Jesus. And so for me, that company taught me a lot about evangelism. Okay. If you want to learn about evangelism, do direct sales because it will teach you to talk to people. It will teach you how to deal with rejection. It will teach you how to overcome obstacles. It will teach you to reach out to people in the face of fear. And so I learned so much about how to walk with the Lord in that season. But then coming out of it, like I said, I didn't really want to do anything to do with another company or to say that I was a part of another company. Well, with Dayspring sells devotionals. We sell home decor, and it all has scripture on it. It's all faith-based. It's all about their mission is women building up women in faith and business. And so for me, I can get behind that because I'm not backdooring people with Jesus. I'm offering him from the beginning. Yeah. So I'm not fully engaged in trying to build a team right now, but I love doing parties. I love the ability to do online parties, to host parties in person, to be able to share and pray and build community. And for me, it goes beyond just the selling of the products. It goes into getting into people's lives. It gives me the tangible something, even as with Christians, because that one thing I found about myself is that I did tend to lean. Everyone I would encounter would be already saved, a majority of them, and it was my call from the Lord to build these people up. And so at least that's what I felt. And so for me, I love meeting women who are already Christians and being able to because that's what happened to me, right? When I really encountered Jesus, I was already born again, but not really walking out my salvation with fear and trembling, not really walking out how to that discipleship. And so I love being able to come alongside women and get into their lives and pray with them and get into the trenches and find out what's stopping them from pursuing their goals and their dreams. And yeah.
And
So
if we think of it, so even last night, I watched the movie Biscuits. It had to do with the horse. Okay,
okay.
it's not a young child movie because there's a lot of blood in it. Okay, but just so you know, but there was a one thing that it highlighted in the beginning was Henry Ford, on how when Henry Ford first did his first vehicle, it took 13 hours to assemble it. Well, from that came assembly lines. From that came, you know, I mean, and all over the world, mind you, right? Because it, you know, they, you know, so, and then if we think of business, right? We could go back to the beginning, right? Adam wasn't given a built house, right? Adam wasn't given a table. Adam was placed in the garden. And
Right.
in the garden, through his creative imagination, right? He was able to, you know, and then development just continued to take place throughout all human history, and here we are today, right?
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so coming into atmospheres for, you know, we've got, go back, there's Avon or Tupperware, right? You've got Avon and Tupperware and Princess House and Mary Kay and you name it. There's so many different avenues of business. And I just think it's great that you've been given something that is a blessing not only to you, but everybody likes to decorate their house. Because if you go into a house and there's no characteristic to it, then in my personal opinion, a woman hasn't been able to express herself, right? And we all
Yeah.
express ourselves differently. It's not, you know, one piece of art should be in everybody's house everywhere,
Sure. No.
right? And
Yeah.
so this is just a really great opportunity. And with this YouTube video, underneath there will be contact information associated with Nicole Higgins. Okay, so
Yeah.
for our viewers, if you want to reach out to her, you want to find a little bit more about this Mary Martha. So we've got another 8 minutes. Nicole,
Okay.
if you were to just kind of like break down, like, you know, bullet point, here's, you know, like baby steps. What is a baby step that a parent, because we don't just have to talk about moms, right? What is a baby step that a parent can begin to implement where, okay, I could do that one thing to feel successful today in my parenting. What would you share with them?
Um, Start with a 10-minute task.
Okay.
Just start. Sometimes I think we build up in our head what, you know, we look at our mess, for example, and it seems overwhelming. And I think just starting, just setting a timer for 10 minutes and find an area that needs cleaned up and clean it up, right? And that could be applied into find 10 minutes and make a list of people that you want to talk to or reach out for business. Maybe that looks like 10 minutes of intentional social media time. So you're intentionally going and advertising your business. You're intentionally going out and reaching out to people. You're intentionally going and working your business. So if you could just set 10 minutes, everybody has 10 minutes. And so I think just starting, and maybe it's you get to do 3 10-minute tasks a day. And kids, especially moms with kids, I think kids can understand, like, okay, mommy needs 10 minutes. And then you find that 10 minutes lots to fill and what to fill it with. But I think just starting simple and
That's
quick.
great. That's a great advice. Even if it came to like, Sarah and Johnny want mom to read, and mom's so tired she has to pinch herself to keep herself alive and alert, right? But if okay, so for just 10 minutes, just mom's going to focus for 10 minutes on this, right? That can be done. Or dad's going to focus for 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Even with co-parenting, because both jobs, regardless of whether you're CEO of your home or whether you're the CEO and then your home, right? All
Yeah.
jobs, unless you're, my phrase was, unless you find me sitting on the couch eating bonbons, no, I work today.
Yeah.
you know, because
Yeah.
I was that mom who worked outside of the home, and had the home life, but you know, gosh, and I also think that's where grandparents come in, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
grandparents are needed, or aunts or uncles are needed as well. Like, how do you come together as a community to take breaks, to give
Yeah.
somebody a break, right? Whether it be it's almost like in each community there needs to be a safe person. Okay, so once every 6 months the kids are at your house, right? But
Yeah.
but if
No,
you
I
get a if you get a
literally have done that
yes,
with friends. I have
yes,
like when my mom usually watches the kids when I go and coach, so that I don't, because the point of coaching is that I would be earning income too,
yeah,
and I'm not getting paid a ton to coach
yeah,
preschool gymnastics.
yeah,
And so my mom has that time to come. Well, my mom fell and wasn't able to. And so I put a post out on Facebook just saying, hey, is there any moms out there that want to do a trade? And it was
yeah.
crazy the amount of moms that I knew, and all of them that were trusted moms that I could trust my kids with for a couple hours while I go and do that, and be willing to watch their kids anytime that they needed. It was shocking the number of people that offered.
That is so good.
Babysitters are expensive, and
Yeah.
a lot of
So
moms.
I would like
Oh,
you to do something now. I would like you got 2 minutes to do this. I would like you to pour a blessing over parents.
okay.
Okay?
All right. So I have a couple of scriptures actually that
Okay?
I would, that I'll just kind of use to pray over.
Okay? So can you
So
tell
Father,
the address? Can you tell
yeah,
the address before you do it so that viewers would have those addresses? And then
yeah,
also, Nicole, can you send me the addresses and I will attach it to the bottom of this YouTube video as well?
sure.
Okay?
So Proverbs 24:16 says, "A righteous man may fall 7 times and rise again, but the wicked shall fall by calamity." And so, Father, I just thank you that you, even when we fall, in the righteousness that we clothe ourselves in by your Son, that we would rise every time, and that we would be able to stand back up onto our feet and continue to go in the direction that you would have us going. And then the second one is Hebrews 10:36, "For you have need of endurance, so that after you have done the will of God, you may receive your promise." So I pray right now that that those watching that need wisdom, that you would give it to them, and you would give it liberally. I pray, Lord, that you would make known your will so that they can receive the promises that you have for them, and that they would run the race with endurance. I pray, Galatians 6:9 says, "And let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart." And I pray, Lord, that all weariness would go, and that people would run and not walk, and that they would hold your hand while they do it, and that they would allow you to guide them. And then Philippians 1:6 6 says, being confident of this very thing, that he who has begun a good work in you will complete it until the day of Jesus Christ. You know, whenever I am feeling like I've failed, I always go back to when I met Jesus, and I realize where I was. I was so broken. It's so full over my head in sin, and Jesus still wanted me. And so I try to remind myself how far he's brought me, and remind myself that if he brought me this far, he obviously knew that in this moment I would have failed, and that he would have the same grace and the same faithfulness to pick me up even in that little mess, which it really is little compared to the mess that I was when he found me, and he would be faithful to complete it. So I just pray that you guys would know the love of the Father, and that you would know that he is for you, not against you, and that he is going to finish the work that he began in you.
That's right. That's right. Amen. And, you know, I just want to add to that, so if you've jacked up, you know, own it. Own it. Own it that you've jacked up. But one thing that's great about time is we all go to sleep at night and we wake up and it's a brand new day, right? And so with that brand new day, there's a promise in the Bible that says his mercies are new every day. Well, if his mercies are new every day, we get a fresh start every day. So no matter if you've jacked up over here, my verbiage is stop, drop, and roll with the Word of God, right? Stop, drop, and roll with the Word of God. And so today's a brand new day, or it's a new evening, whenever it is that you're viewing this, right? Just stop. And you could say to your children, hey, I'm sorry, right? Or you know, no matter what age you are, I've gone back many times and you know, apologized to my kids, and they're like, Mom, you know, we don't hold that over you. Right? And so maybe it's just a moment in my own brain that I have to release it out of my own brain. So we really thank you for coming on today, Nicole. We thank you, and we thank the kids for, you know, showing their mom grace to give her that space. And
yeah, they're definitely knocking on the door right now, right?
Yep.
Like, are we going to our friends?
Yes, I've seen kids.
5:30.
Yeah, I've seen kids. Well, you've taught them to be prompt. They were like, and so we just thank you. I just want to thank all of our viewers for coming on, and looking forward to all the new adventures you're going to have, Nicole. And for our viewers, until our next episode of Sagionic 1027, may the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon thee always. Blessings. Bye.